From the KHON2 News, this is a special report.
Good afternoon, I'm Marissa Yamane. Another media briefing from Hawaii County Civil Defense is about to get underway about the lava emergency. Now, while we wait for that, we do want to bullet point the latest information. Now, keep in mind things are very fluid and changing hour by hour, but here's the very latest that we know so far. Still 15 fissures in and around Leilani Estates as well as Lani Puna Gardens. The lava eruption out of those fissures has once again taken a break, but a lot of that volcanic gas is still coming out of those fissures, as you can see here from this aerial video from the National Guard. The lava has covered more than 116 acres so far. The amount of structures destroyed still stands at 36. Now, in addition to Leilani Estates and Lani Puna Gardens, yesterday officials also evacuated homes on Ala Ili Road. Those are to the southwest of Leilani Estates. That's right across of Highway 130. And that's because of fears of a possible new fissure could cut off that road, the only road in and out of that community. Meanwhile, over at Halemaumau Crater, the lookout from Jagger Museum, very busy today since Hawaii Volcanoes National Park will be closed starting tomorrow until further notice. The lava lake, it's dropping. That level is dropping. Officials expect it to drop below the water table in the coming days. When that happens, there could be these steam explosions hurling debris and small rocks. So as a precaution, officials are closing most of the park, majority of the park, including that overlook you see right there. That's to keep everyone safe. Howard Dashevsky's been at the park all day. We will hear from him in just a bit. Also want to mention Puna Geothermal Venture. We heard the governor say that it's urgent that they remove all the pentane gas off-site, and they did that as of 3:15 this morning. We do want to go to Manolo Morales right now. He's standing outside of the Emergency Operations Center where the media briefing is about to get underway. Manolo.
Jim is going to come through. He's just changing his shirt.
Yeah, Marissa, thank you very much. Yeah, that's right. In fact, the 3 o'clock briefing is about to get underway. The Hawaii County Civil Defense Administrator Thomas Magno will be giving that, as well as Jim Kawaikawa, the geophysicist with the USGS. And, you know, certainly getting some updates with evacuations, with seismic activity that's been reoccurring. And, in fact, we just got word a little bit earlier that there was an earthquake. We don't know how big that is yet, but so certainly ask questions about that, ask for updates with the evacuation on Ala Ili Road, as well as what else happens next with Puna Geothermal Venture, as far as whether all the safety concerns have been addressed. So we will talk to them about that. In the meantime, also here at Civil Defense is where lawmakers stopped by as they sort of went through a whole lot of places here over in Hilo as well as Pahoa. They came here and met with the officials here, as well as Mayor Harry Kim, and they got a really good briefing on what is going on, both what's happening in the communities and as well as the scientific explanations of what's going on. They also visited some of the sites where lava had sort of destroyed some of the communities and the roads there. They went to the evacuation shelters, and from that is they sort of got together and then now considering possibly a special session, considering it, and I'm not saying they would for sure, but if that is something where they could do to help some of the people here in some way, if they could figure out exactly what they want to do, how they can help. If they can narrow those things down, then they said, then they will be able to call in a special session in order to actually, so they could just vote rather than just kind of have it a lingering thing, because a special session, of course, is usually just a week. So it's a matter of figuring out those options. They did visit a public housing, Hale Aloha Opuna, which is a public housing that has some vacancies in there, and then they talked about the possibilities of what they can do with that. Here is, if the administrator is here, as well as Jim Kawaikawa, we can go ahead and go ahead with the 3 o'clock briefing. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Hi, Manolo. How are you? What can you tell us so far? What is the latest?
Well, today we're battling high levels of SO2. We haven't had any new fissures open up. but you know, that's still the case. I guess on the west end, and then Jim Kawahikawa from Hawaiian Volcanoes Observatory will give you guys an update as far as that stuff. But Highway 130 continues to crack, and west of that, there's some a little bit of warm fissures, I guess, up in the woods, up in that area. So looking at that, high degassing off of the vents down in the subdivisions. And so, like I said, we've been battling that, getting a little bit elevated SO2 in the Pahoa community. So, you know, people are aware of that and wondering what's going on, and trying to get information out to them as far as the different levels and how they need to react. So we've been dealing with that today.
Was there an earthquake like in the past hour or two?
You know, that's what I was inside, so I didn't feel anything. But I guess there was a small earthquake.
Small as in, what are we talking about?
I'm not even sure what the scale was, but you know, it could have been an aftershock from that big one. Yeah.
Is there an update as far as there was the evacuation expansion on Alaili Road? What's going on with that crack on the road there? Is there anything more? Is it getting worse or anything like that?
Well, it seems like the cracks are spreading. I took the legislators out there today just to show them how wide an area of cracks it is, and basically why the road's not passable anymore. And you can see that linear pattern that's kind of this eruption's taken. It just spreads further up the East Rift along that linear line.
How wide is that crack?
Well, there's numerous cracks, but it's like within an area of probably like 100 yards, I'm guessing. So you get multiple cracks of different sizes, some of which would make it, you know, not quite impassable, but if you don't know where they are, you'd probably wreck your car if you ran in over it. Yeah.
You mentioned SO2 issues today. How widespread are those issues outside of the Leilani Estates area? Obviously, the winds have changed a little bit today from where they've been the last few days.
Right. So the past few days we had trades. So, you know, the community in that downwind of it was getting the impacts. So Opihikau, that area, Kalapana, and now it's kind of switched around like a southwest, you know, a little bit lighter winds. So Pahoa area is getting the effects of the SO2.
What's the forecast on the winds at this point? What's the National Weather Service telling you?
I know at least through tomorrow we're going to be in these conditions.
Are you still letting folks into Leilani to retrieve their possessions?
Yes.
As far as the Puna geothermal venture, the pentane has been moved, my understanding, from early this morning. And is there still a question as far as with those wells, whether what could happen about releasing some toxic gases if lava seemed to disrupt what's in those wells?
Right. So pentane's clear, so that's been moved out, and we got concerned, and we're looking into the wells themselves now.
But still don't know how to address it at this point, or
we've got some plans. So, you know, we're checking to see, you know, what it's going to take, basically.
What are the concerns for the wells?
It's always been the case that the unabated release of H2S, hydrogen sulfide.
Is there any way, do you have the expertise to cap those wells or contain that hydrogen sulfide if they are ruptured in any way?
We have help from some people in California with the industry to take a look at the well caps to see what we need to do.
So you brought in experts from California? Are they here?
We're discussing with them right now, yeah.
This would be folks who work on oil wells or geo wells or?
Both.
Both.
Yes.
Are they recommending anything at this point?
No, we haven't gotten to that point of the discussion.
There's been some chatter on Facebook about why don't they secure the wells? I mean, and I think people are thinking, you know, some sort of concrete plug or something like that would make them less likely to rupture. Is that an option?
That's not an option that we're looking at.
Because
I'm not sure. We're looking at basically just filling the wells with water.
So pumping water into the wells would be a solution?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
it would stop the gases from. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at. Yeah.
How much of a health concern would that be if there was a big release of H2S from the well?
Well, it depends on what the levels are. I think as far as their dangerous levels, pretty similar to SO2, to sulfur dioxide. So, we'd have to monitor that. It dissipates as well farther away from the where it's vented. So just like SO2, H2S poses a problem.
Would people outside the evacuated areas be impacted by that?
Depending on where the prevailing winds are.
Tell me, who ultimately decides how to secure those wells? What's the right thing to do at this point? Is that the governor or the mayor, or who does that?
It's the county, the state, and working with PGV, with a geothermal venture.
Under the proclamation that the governor signed yesterday? Is that
Yes.
sort of what's governing
Yes.
things right now? Okay, so you've got a group that's considering what to do. At the moment, the option is putting water into the wells.
Yes.
But not pouring concrete or securing them in some more permanent way.
Right.
Okay.
How soon could that happen?
The equipment, although we'd have to bring equipment in from the mainland, so we're trying to work that out.
Do you have that much time, or? I know it's hard to say, but it's a little bit scary thinking that you have to wait.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we got, so we're acting on it.
And that solution, the idea of putting water into the wells to secure them, is that what's coming from California? Is that a recommendation from experts in the field, or is that?
That's coming from discussion. I'm not sure what. It's within the group, so I wasn't part of that discussion, but I was just informed that that's what we're pursuing.
Okay, and the idea is that would be able to contain an uncontrolled blowout. It would prevent it from happening.
Yes.
And any other details about that? How do you get the water into the wells? I mean, they're highly pressurized, right?
Well, I guess there's a piece of equipment that comes self-contained. It's energized, and has a water tank on it, and it'll just pump it down.
Just force it in.
Yeah.
How big are these wells?
Oh, they're deep, but the shafts basically taper down. Was described to me as like a telescope. So, they get smaller as they go down.
How far down?
Jim, you know?
The wells are in the range of 6,000 to 8,000 feet deep.
Oh, 6,000 to 8,000 feet.
Yeah.
Okay.
And diameter, I believe, is about 9 inches at the bottom.
That's a lot of water.
But I'm not an expert.
Okay.
How much water would be needed?
A lot.
and you would need a special type of equipment to actually put the water down.
So they said this piece of equipment that's in California could be flown down here.
And is there some trigger that would cause you to pursue this option? I mean, if it gets to a certain distance from the plant, or based on the route of the lava?
Not necessarily. I think we're just taking actions at this point.
And how many wells would you need to secure? Is it 9?
I think they've got the injection wells and the production wells. So as far as those, I'm not sure if there's any difference in the way they got to treat them.
Okay.
Or so I'm not sure of the exact number.
How long could their release last for?
As long as there's gas down there.
So is this solution going to happen in a matter of days, a matter of weeks, or what are you looking at? As far as you saying getting the equipment in, and
What's your question again?
as far as how long it'll take to get the equipment in and get this done?
Well, we're working on it now. Once that's put together, it should be down here fairly soon.
Is the equipment on its way?
It hasn't lifted off yet. Yeah.
So we're talking days, not weeks.
Should be, yeah, just days.
I have a geology question for Dr. Jim. It's been a pretty big swarm of earthquakes east of Leilani towards the Pohiki side, and it looks like there's some inflation on that side. I'm assuming that's additional magma incursion into that area?
Yes. About midday yesterday, the intrusion started to move eastward again, northeastward. We believe the tip is in the vicinity of Noni Farms Road. The earthquakes, the swarm of earthquakes that you saw were roughly at the leading edge of the intrusion. We suspect that it's still moving, but of course it's very slow. Yeah.
Does that I would assume that increases the risk of an eruption potentially in that area?
I would assume so too, but it's very difficult to say since this thing is miles long, and why it chose Leilani Estates to erupt, not real clear.
Talmadge, are people already supposed to be out of the Noni Farms Road area? Have they been evacuated already? Are they under an order?
No, we haven't addressed the Noni Farms Road.
Okay, has the county been in contact with them so that they're aware of what Jim just described?
No.
Okay. Is that going to happen?
Yes, the whole area. That whole region is invited to our meeting, so, that's part of our message, has been and will be tonight, that not just Leilani Estates and Lanipuna, but everybody needs to be prepared for, evacuation or changes in the situation.
Everybody, but yes, certainly areas that you're certainly raising more concern with.
Yes. Or you're asking.
Ones? Yeah, which ones?
Pretty much from, let's see, Cape Kumukahi, all the way, that would be south to Kalapana.
Any idea what the population figures are in those areas at this point? People that potentially are impacted if you have to evacuate all of those areas?
Yeah, I think the census was probably less than 2,000.
Any additional ground cracks in the area or at PGV?
I think there's more ground cracking off the 130 area, and nothing reported at PGV.
We're talking Upper Red.
Yes.
So today it's kind of status quo. You've got 15 vents, none of them pushing out lava, all of them to one degree or another pushing out fumes.
Yeah.
Is that right?
We're at 15 fissures still, but as Tel said, the area to the west of Highway 130 has been acting up over the last 24, 36 hours. And so we have two areas of steaming. They seem to be expanding into Highway 130 itself, and the road's just buck high of Highway 130. But so far, no. There is SO2 coming out. They're warm, but no lava so far. And for one of the earlier questions, there have been cracks reported on a PGV property, but none at Noni Farms Road yet.
So those are new cracks at PGV.
In PGV, depends on what you define by new, but yeah, they've. I know that one of them appeared in the last 2 days. So,
as far as the lava lake, that's supposed to reach that level, the water table, at the summit.
Yes.
Is it tomorrow? The timetable is still where you see it?
Difficult to say because we can no longer see the lake, and so we are tracking its descent by indirect means. The summit tilt has been a good proxy while we could see the lake, the summit ground tilt. And since the summit itself is deflating, we're of course tracking the tilt along with it. We're also tracking gravity variations, but that's been a little bit hampered by the fact that the diameter of the hole is smaller at depth, and so gravity responds to mass changes. And so if the conduit is a couple hundred yards in diameter up at the top, 1 meter or 1 yard of lava will have more mass than 1 yard of lava where the diameter is half that. And etc. So if you're tracking gravity, it's going to appear to slow down, but in fact the mass difference, the mass change, is the one that's slowing gravity down. It's not necessarily the level.
Okay. So is the time stable? Is the timeline still for tomorrow?
Well, we're not.
Or are you seeing anything different from what you saw before?
No.
Okay.
Is it a steady drop? I mean, is it a steady sort of, as far as you can tell, a steady?
As far as we can tell, yeah. But it's become more difficult because we can't see the lake.
Any idea how close it is to the water table?
If we can't tell the rate exactly, we don't really know, but I can tell you that it's probably closer.
Jim, how deep is the water table? Just what's the depth?
It's about 500 yards below the floor of Kilauea Crater, more or less.
You mentioned gas in Pahoa. What kind of readings?
Just over 1 point per million.
1 point per million,
Yeah.
which on its own is already dangerous if you're in that area. Correct, or?
It's, two sensitive groups.
Okay.
Yeah, healthy people, it'll be all right.
So you're not telling people to take additional precautions because of that, or?
Yeah, so like the schools, we tell them shelter in place.
Has DOH was going to put out some air quality monitors. Has that been completed already?
Yes, they have, and they're
for
bringing in some more.
So for the local schools, air quality monitors are there already?
Yes.
So the evacuation shelter, yeah?
Yes.
A number of years ago when we had an SO2 issue, I want to think maybe it was 2008, somewhere around that, there was a lot of modeling that was publicly available about plume tracking and SO2 tracking. Is that still available, or is that publicly available at this point?
It's still available via the website ivhhn.org/VOG. And in fact, I think they've added the Leilani Estates source. Just to keep it up to date.
Out of the ordinary to you? I mean, as we talked about yesterday, you've been tracking this volcano for years. Anything that has completely surprised you as to how it's acted and completely different than what you would have forecast or modeled, or uncertainty is sort of par for the course?
Uncertainty is par for the course. That's a good way to put it. It's always new.
That is the latest here at the Hawaii County Civil Defense from the administrator, Talmadge Magno, as well as Dr. Jim Kawahikawa. Among the things they addressed, there's still some concerns with Puna geothermal venture and what to do with those wells, whether probably what they're looking at is putting or filling it with water to sort of prevent gases from leaking out if lava were to reach those wells. Marissa, over to you.
Thank you so much, Manolo. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park will close starting tomorrow because of a threat of a steam explosion. Howard Dashevsky's been at the park all day and has the latest. Howard.
Hey, aloha, Marissa. We're here at the overlook of the Jagger Museum looking at the Halemaumau crater, and actually for the first time in a long time, in about an hour, we could actually see the majority of the crater and some of the steam rising up. The event that has been going on for several days continues, and the big ash plume event that we saw yesterday, well, there's still an ash event, although nothing compared to what we saw yesterday. The problem is there is an expectation that something is going to happen, and so for that reason, the park will be closed tonight at 10 o'clock. I want to bring in Jessica Farrakane, who is the spokesperson for the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. Jessica, I know the very last thing in the world that you folks ever want to do is shut down the park, because this is one of the greatest living experiments in the world that you'd love to share with people.
Yeah, closing the park is one of the worst things that we have to do as park managers to keep people safe, but it's not worth keeping it open. If something does happen, we are actually in sort of a ground zero area right here, so we don't want anybody to get hurt.
Of course, back in 1924, the last time there was a large steam type of an explosion, rocks the size of cars came billowing out. I know you wouldn't expect that here, but even up here, you'd be rained on with pebbles or marble-sized rocks and ash. That wouldn't be fun.
No, that would not be fun at all. And not only that, we are anticipating winds from the south. So not only do we have potential of ash and rocks falling from the sky and hammering the observation deck here, but we also have SO2 fumes now coming in to add to the mix. So not a fun place to be, and that's why we're closing.
Okay, so the specific details about the closure, the times?
Yeah, so tonight when we close at 10 o'clock, that will be it until further notice here at Kilauea. Our Kahuku unit will remain open, but, you know, here, the main attraction at Kilauea Summit, we are closing down.
All right. Thank you very much, Jessica Farrakane from the Hawaiian Volcanoes National Park. Of course, that also means that the housing, the military camp, anybody who was checked in there is now going to be checking out, because once again, the expectation is that something is going to happen. May not happen tomorrow or the next day, but for now, the park is going to be closed for further notice as nature continues to do her thing right in front of our eyes. That's what's happening here. Marissa, we send it back to you in Honolulu.
Howard, thank you. And as she mentioned, the changing winds, that's not only affecting that Jagger Museum overlook, but also SO2 levels tracked as well as in Pahoa. So we have that plus a swarm of earthquakes continuing. Our Justin Cruz has been tracking both of those things and joins us with more. Justin.
Well, Marissa, we're still seeing over 100 earthquakes per day and in swarms as well. Fortunately, the earthquakes have not been as big as that 6.9 last week, but they're still active and firing up. In fact, today we had one of the larger ones. It was actually a magnitude 4.2 at a depth of 3 miles. So this is the biggest one since the weekend that we've seen, and it was offshore. Obviously, it's not big enough to trigger a tsunami, but we still see larger or smaller earthquakes in areas such as the Kilauea caldera. You can see this swarm here, and then that earlier swarm that I showed you, this is by Leilani Estates, and that's still happening. In fact, it's been happening for the past several days. So those swarms continue to happen. Again, they're mostly magnitude 1s and 2s, maybe the occasional 3s, but the ground is still shaking in this area. I want to talk about the winds right now. This is the current wind situation. We're seeing a bit of a southeasterly wind over the Big Island and some easterlies for the rest of the state. Now, when we have trade winds, most of the time, our prevailing wind, that wind pushes the Vog plume away and over the open ocean. But when we get a wind direction that we have right now and tomorrow, which are southeasterlies or maybe some easterlies, some of that Vog and the SO2 concentration can spread to the Big Island. And if we had more days of southeasterlies, that Vog plume would start to swing up to the rest of the state. Fortunately, trades are back starting Saturday, and that will push the Vog plume away from the islands. As far as the fissures, this is the latest map. We're still at up to 15 fissures, and they're saying that most of the steam events are happening in cracks in the ground just by Highway 130 and Ala Ili Road. This is that new evacuation area from yesterday. Leilani Estates to the northeast of that, and to the northeast of Leilani Estates, Puna Geothermal and Lani Puna Garden. So no new fissures, but definitely some activity in the form of steam and SO2 kind of seeping up from the ground. Marissa, back to you.
Justin, thank you. And before we go, we do want to remind you about that 5:30 meeting that starts at Pahoa High School cafeteria. It's the same place it's been held over the past week. The eruption's been going on now for a week, and this is ever-changing, and we do want to thank you for, it's a very important event, and we do want to thank you for entrusting us here at KHON2 with passing on the very latest information to you. We will have more tonight on our evening newscast starting at 5. And also you can go to our website, KHON2.com, for the latest information, sign up for our push alerts, and also go to our KHON2 Facebook page for the very latest. I'll see you back here in about an hour and a half.